Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Cooper, a New York Player's novel, by Lulu Moore, narrated by Edward Black and Allie Rose. Prologue. Cooper. Have you ever fucked up so bad you don't know how to get out of it? Like really and truly, monumentally fucked up? Because I have. Have you ever had something so perfect, so incredible, so complete, and then thrown it away? Because I have. Which is how I ended up here, at 2:36 a.m., nursing a broken nose. Where I've been for the past 5 hours. In the dark, staring at the bottom of a bottle. Because my nose isn't the only thing broken. My heart is too, into a million pieces. A heart that has only ever been owned by her. I'm in a mess of my own creation, and now I'm doing everything I can to fix it. Starting with a love letter. Except it isn't a letter, it's a mixed tape. A love playlist. Me, a professional athlete and grown-ass man, making a playlist like a fucking teenager. How can I find the words to convey how I feel? That I'm not just missing her, but that a piece of me is missing because she's not here. Hindsight is a powerful thing. To quote Janet Jackson, you don't know what you got till it's gone. I definitely know. And I'm getting it back.
Chapter 1. Freddie. I could hear my phone ringing in the depths of my bag as I pulled up in front of my house. I reversed as quickly as possible into the available space, but it stopped before I could turn the engine off and reach for it. Oh well. Jumping out, I opened the trunk and stared down at the contents. It was currently filled with a dozen rolls of wallpaper. Pulling out as many as I could fit under one arm, I walked toward the front door and dumped them on the step before going back for the rest. I don't know why I agreed to this. My assistant Carrie was supposed to pick these up and take them over to the client to go through. But instead of ordering swatches like normal, she'd ordered entire rolls at £400 each. 12 rolls, all different. So they needed to be sent back. Today. Not sure why this was my problem, but Carrie begged me to take care of it so she could get ready for a big date. So I agreed and added it to the mountain of other jobs I had to do. I rummaged around for my keys before I realized they were already in my hand, and opened the door, bringing everything inside. And by bringing, I meant picking up what I could carry and kicking the rest to roll along the floor before stopping where I deposited everything else on the hall floor. I was so tired, I could barely make it through to the kitchen, and immediately fell onto the big corner couch, face first, closing my eyes. What a day. I owned an interior design business for high-net-worth individuals. I was lucky enough that I didn't have to take on any client I didn't want to, which meant I could spend my time working on projects I loved, believed in, and that challenged me. I'd thankfully moved on from the days which had been taken up with running errands and sourcing the impossible. Life-sized gold-plated elephant? No, because that's disgusting. But right now, apart from having to sort out an order gone wrong, I was organising my sister's wedding reception and bachelorette party. Not a small task. And being the control freak I was, there's no way I'd have let anyone else do it. My sister Wolfie had moved to New York for a few months last year and met her now fiancé, Jasper. The wedding was in 2 weeks, in the English village where our parents lived, a 40-minute drive outside of London. The reception was being held in the barn on our parents' property, and I'd been tasked with making it look presentable. Wolfie wanted a fairy tale Glen theme, and so that's what Jasper was giving her, via me. One room in my house was currently dedicated to massive boxes of fairy lights, all ready to be strung up. I'd spent the day with the florists organising miniature blossom trees to be delivered, along with what seemed to be miles of ivy and thousands of tea lights. A shrill ring burst through the silence, startling me out of my daze. I let out a loud groan as I blindly reached around me, trying to find my phone, which was still at the bottom of my bag. Incoming call. Stuart. Nope, didn't want to deal with that. I pressed decline and my home screen popped up. Missed call. Stuart, ×3. Missed call. Cooper, ×2. My heart skipped an involuntary beat. Cooper. Marks. Hottest man on earth. Current bane of my life. He was Jasper's best friend, and we'd met last year when I'd been visiting Wolfie. I'd seen him for the first time where he and Jasper worked together, and by work I meant played ice hockey, for the New York Rangers. And ice hockey players were a whole other level of sexy man, a level I didn't even know existed, but had definitely become a massive fan of. I remember that first game. It was like watching foreplay. Raw, sexy, and fully charged with testosterone and adrenaline. Cooper Marks absolutely had all of that. During the weeks and weeks I'd spent in New York with Wolfie, we'd all started hanging out with Jasper's friends more, and as I'd got to know Cooper better, we'd become friends too. We even had things in common, such as our love for design and architecture. Naturally, I'd offered my help with any advice he needed for designing the house he was building, his dream house. That was my first mistake. It had started off simple enough, pointing him in the right direction of the finest kitchen designers or where he would source the best shower heads, all well within my remit of an experienced and well-respected interior designer. But the requests had slowly changed to daily messages on the best teapots or curtain rails, or trying to make me choose the better shade of blue between two identical pictures, at which point it became clear he was deliberately trying to wind me up, which it did. And as I was maid of honor to his best man, our need to be in contact had increased, so I couldn't ignore him quite as easily. At least, that's how it felt. He'd become the hottest, most irritating person I knew, sitting in prime position right under my skin. I got up and walked to the fridge, pulling out a bottle of rosé and poured a glass. Better get this over with. I dialed through on FaceTime, propping the phone up on the counter. A ripped torso and broad muscular chest came into view before he tipped the screen up. His warm amber eyes flashed with amusement as a grin spread across his face. Days' worth of stubble only highlighted his perfect bone structure and strong jaw. He'd definitely won the handsome lottery the day they were handing out tickets. A hot flush ran through me, tingles shooting down my spine. My body and my head were not aligned in thinking when it came to Cooper Marks. "Hello, Tiny. Nice of you to call me back." I wasn't about to give him the satisfaction of reacting to the use of his name for me, especially as I knew he only did it to annoy me. What did Shakespeare say anyway? Though she be but little, she is fierce. I could definitely be fierce when needed. "Marks, what's up?" I raised an eyebrow at him, taking a sip of my wine. He was clearly outside in his garden. I could hear splashes in the pool, so he wasn't alone. "I have an emergency entertainment question. I'm entertaining, and I wanted to ask what the best straws for cocktails are." He deadpanned. "What?" "Cocktail straws. Drew wanted those curly ones for the party today. Do you know where I can get them? Can you order them for me? I took an almost too large glug of wine to stop me from taking his bait. Cooper, you have an assistant, and if you don't, please let me find you one so you stop annoying me and wasting my time. Oh, come on, Tiny. You know you're the best at this. Best at what? Finding straws? My annoyance flared, finally getting the better of me. What is the matter with you? He started laughing at me, his mouth open wide, his pink tongue peeking out. Calm down. I was calling to ask if you can send me Murray's number. He and Jamie arrived later today, and I need to give them some details for getting here. Coop, hurry up, we want drinks, called a whiny, saccharine voice. Who's that? No one? He moved away from where he'd been standing. Cooper, come on. That was definitely not a voice I recognized. Have you got a bunny there? I frowned. No, Felix and Drew are here. He mentioned two of the more promiscuous members of the team. With bunnies? I pressed. There are a few girls here. If I hadn't already had enough of this conversation, I had now. My temper began brewing. Why are you calling me when you're entertaining? Not that you did entertain a bunny. The corner of his mouth tilted up a fraction. I'd called him. Bollocks. I rolled my eyes. Well, I'm not going to keep you. Don't do anything stupid with Jasper this weekend. I'll send you Murray's number now. Thank you, Danny. He smirked. Yeah. I hung up and sent my brother's number to him. A message came back immediately. Cooper. Thank you, Danny. I promise to be on my best behavior just for you. Kiss. I took a deep sigh, then downed the rest of my wine and poured another glass, hoping to push away the visions of his rippled torso that were currently flooding my brain. Chapter 2. Freddie. Nina Simone was feeling good, and I had to agree with her. A decent night's sleep had worked wonders in ridding me of my irritability at Cooper, as well as the sadness which had been creeping up on me lately. Sadness at Wolfie leaving and moving permanently to New York. As well as my sister, she was my best friend. I was going to miss her terribly, but at least it gave me an excuse to visit New York more often. The bachelorette party was taking place this weekend, and while small and super low-key at Wolfie's request, I'd still been working hard to make sure this weekend would be a brilliant send-off for her. What are you making me for breakfast? Wolfie stretched her arms out with a yawn as she walked into the kitchen. Hey, I said I'd bring it to you in bed. I poured fresh squeezed orange juice into a large jug, which was soon to be mimosas. Yeah, but I was awake and excited, and hungry, so what are you making me? She walked over to the kitchen island and pulled out a stool, sitting on it. I grabbed a bottle of Bollinger from the fridge and popped the cork, topping up the orange juice, although with my generous hand it wasn't so much topping up, more like an even split. I filled a glass and handed it to her. Happy bridal shower day. I kissed her cheek. She grinned. Thank you. Oh, I forgot. I ran to the drawer and pulled out a crown, placing it on her head. You're the queen today. I kissed her on the cheek again before curtsying. Why, thank you, she laughed. But seriously, what are you making me for breakfast? Pancakes. Cooper's pancakes? Her eyes opened wide. Of course. I grabbed the coveted recipe from the kitchen pinboard. Cooper Marx's pancakes were almost as delicious as the man himself. I pulled out the mixing bowl from the cupboard as the doorbell rang. I'll get it. You make my pancakes, Wolfie said as she ran to the door. I walked into the pantry to grab the flour, as well as buttermilk and eggs from the fridge. As I opened the door, looking for a whisk, I heard a screech. "Freddie! Fred! Help me!" I threw it on the counter and sprinted towards the door before skidding to a halt. She wasn't being attacked, unless it was by pollen. I found her standing in the doorway, holding a display of flowers almost as big as she was. "Why are you shouting? You can carry this." "I know I can, but I can't carry all that too." She nodded into the road, where 3 men were emptying a van of giant balloons, all filled with glitter, streamers, and little balls. "All right, love," one of the men shouted at me. "There's some more in here if you want to grab 'em." I jogged over to the van, where I was handed an enormous bunch of tied balloons. "Won't give you too many, you'll float away," he winked. "Having a party, then?" "No, this is a regular Saturday round here," I replied dryly, turning around before he had a chance to respond. We walked into the house, passing by the last delivery guy who'd already deposited his balloons in the kitchen. I let them drift to the ceiling before showing him out and shutting the door. There were easily 50 balloons floating between the kitchen and the hall. "Wolf, I'm curious. At any point have you expressed to Jasper a love of balloons?" I looked around at them all, then went back to making the batter, before spooning it out onto the griddle. Soon I had a giant stack of the fluffiest pancakes. "Wolf?" I glanced at her. She was miles away, buried in the note which arrived with the flowers, a wistful smile across her face. "Wolf?" I called again, and she lifted her head up to me. "Order's up. We have to eat up here because of this egregious display of Jasper's love. Bring the drinks over." She walked over to the breakfast bar, through a sea of ribbons and streamers hanging from the balloons, and pulled out a stool. "I have the best fiancé," she said, sliding my glass over to me, her giant engagement ring catching the light. It was so pretty and sparkled constantly from every angle. "You certainly do." I straightened her crown, which had slid down the side of her head, and held my glass up in toast. "Now, let's eat the best pancakes in the world." I took the maple syrup from her, after she'd poured an excessive amount onto her plate and forked in a mouthful. "You know, I think you might make these as good as Cooper. They're better than Jasper's." Her eyes narrowed at me in a glare. "Tell him I said that and I'll hurt you." I motioned a zipping of my lips. "What did the card say?" "Just that he loved me and can't wait to marry me." Her face lit up. It was like she had cartoon hearts and Cupid spinning above her head. "Who wouldn't be excited to marry you?" "I know, right?" She raised her glass and took a sip. "Hey, do you know what they're doing this weekend?" "You don't know?" "I know the gist. I just didn't want to ask Jasper the details." She swirled a forkful of pancakes around her plate, soaking up more syrup before putting it in her mouth. "Oh, babe, it's going to be so lame," I cackled. "Jasper literally doesn't want to do anything without you. Jamie and Murray got there last night. Jamie said they went to a strip club, and Cooper went home with Jasper 10 minutes after they arrived. They didn't even see a stripper." She started laughing. "I told him he'd be in a world of pain if he touched a stripper." "You know, you're getting really comfortable making threats in your old age." I raised an eyebrow at her. "Whatever. It's not like you're unhappy that Cooper didn't enjoy the naked spoils either." She smirked. "You can't even deny it." She wasn't wrong. Jealousy irrationally fired up. I had no claim on Cooper, but my brain and my heart were constantly warring over this fact. His was a life of casual sex and bunnies, and while I had no issue with the casual part, I was certainly no bunny. "Cooper can do whatever and whomever he wants. We're just friends, nothing more." She rolled her eyes at me. You talk every day. Several times a day, in fact. She picked up her mimosa, looking at me as she sipped. I reached for more pancakes off the stack, forking one onto her plate before mine. Your point is? She shrugged. No point. Just sounds like you're trying to convince yourself, that's all. I know you think he's hot. He is hot. Insanely hot. Even blind people can tell he's hot. It practically permeates the air around him. That doesn't mean we're more than friends, though. Does he know that? Does he know what? That we're not more than friends? Yes, I'm pretty sure he's aware, since we don't have sex. I took another bite of my pancakes, needing any distraction possible from imagining sex with Cooper. Plus, I'd made too many, and they were too good not to eat. You definitely could, though. No thanks. He's got bunnies lining up around the street corner for that. I remembered that saccharine whine I'd heard on the phone yesterday. The first time I'd met Cooper and the hockey boys, Wolfie and I had gone to the bathroom and overheard a conversation between 3 young women who'd barely had a brain cell to rub together. They were deciding between them which hockey player they were going home with that night. They were so confident it would happen, and they didn't care with whom. For them, it was a brag on social media. Even then, when Cooper's name had come up in their prospect list, I'd been raged and disgusted. But that's what they were used to. I'm never going to be someone he can take home at the end of the night for a quick shag. I have a bit more self-respect than that. Word on the street is that he's not been with a bunny in a while. I tried to hold my scowl back, because I didn't want this conversation make the rounds of their hockey group, although by word I knew she only meant Jasper, and by the street she meant the pillow. But still. First, stop gossiping about me and Cooper with Jasper. Second, I paused, thinking for a moment, and came up blank. Well, I don't have a second. Okay, she said in that tone that people use when they don't believe a word you're saying. I didn't know why I was wasting my time defending myself, because since Wolfie had got together with Jasper, she seemed to be on a one-woman mission to find someone for me. It made no difference what I said. I like him as a friend, but that's it. Also, you've met him. He's way too annoying and bossy. She smirked into her mimosa. You're literally describing yourself. I'm not annoying, I protested. And I'd prefer you to use the word assertive, thanks. Her grin got wider as I continued. You know how annoying he was when I was trying to help him with his house? He still sends me daily texts about one inane thing after another as though I'm his assistant. Not even sure why he asked me. He just did everything he wanted to, regardless of my advice. He's so fucking stubborn. Her eyes opened wide as she pursed her lips. I'm not stubborn. Oh, please. She poured some more maple syrup on her pancakes, wiping the drip off the top of the bottle with her finger before sticking it in her mouth. All I'm saying is that you and Cooper are very similar. And all I'm saying is that we're friends. I ran my finger around the last of the syrup on my plate. It was the most acceptable step before licking it clean. What do you talk about then? I don't know. I threw my hands in the air. How about the wedding? She grinned. And? I shrugged. Sometimes music. Mostly about how annoying he is, though. Have you ever sent him music? She tapped her index finger on her lips, and I was starting to feel like a witness under interrogation. I send him the playlists I make everyone. It doesn't mean anything. I leaned back in the stool, tucking my feet under me. Oh, I was so full. She jumped off her stool, throwing me a knowing look. Except I didn't know. Then kissed me on the cheek. If you say so. She took the bottle of champagne from the fridge and grabbed 2 fresh glasses, filling them and finishing it off. So, tell me about the plans for today. I stood up, taking the empty bottle from her. Rounding the counter, I placed it in the recycling bin and started pulling the empty plates towards me. We're meeting everyone at the Corinthia for massages, and then we have dinner and party time. Her eyes opened wide. We're going to the Corinthia. Oh my God, I'm so excited. I looked at the clock. We had an hour before we needed to leave. The car will be here at 11, and I have some things for you upstairs. I opened the dishwasher and loaded it before taking her hand and dragging her out of the kitchen. Come on. Wolfie flopped onto my bed as I turned on some music and walked through to my closet. Wolf, come in here. I held out 2 dresses for her. This is for you to wear now. I shook the hanger which was holding a delicate white and blue silk sundress. And this, I shook the other one, which was holding a silvery, shimmery evening dress, is for you to wear tonight. Oh, Fred, they're beautiful. She ran her hands over the silk as I picked up a weekend bag and placed it on the low ottoman. Here's your weekend bag. Everything you need is there. Just add your toothbrush. She wrapped her arms around me, holding me in a tight hug. Oh, Fred, thank you so much. I can't wait. This week has been exactly what I wanted. She let go of me and walked over to a shelf, picking up a frame containing an old photo of my birth parents from when they were younger. They'd been best friends with Wolfie's parents and had died in a car accident when I was little. So Jack and Diane, Wolfie's parents, had adopted me right away and become my new family. I'd been so young that it could have turned out very differently, and because they'd been close since their own childhoods, they were able to tell me stories of their times together. We celebrated them and talked about them constantly. They'd ensured my parents were a huge part of our family, not just for me, but Wolf, Murray, and Jamie too. Hello, Danvers. You have the best daughter in the world. She pressed a quick kiss to the photo before putting it back on the shelf. I grinned at her. Go and get your arse in the shower, but don't bother washing your hair. It'll just get greasy from the massage. And besides, you'll have it done properly later. Okay. She ran off shouting, Whoa! I'm getting married! Chapter 3. Freddie. The driver carried our bags through the hotel lobby and over to the private lift. We took our things from him and got in, taking it to the only floor it stopped at, our suite. Oh, wow, whispered Wolfie in reverence as the doors opened and we were greeted by a butler. Jesus, I followed, taking in the room, and burst out laughing. There must have been another dozen balloons floating around. They're everywhere. I turned to the butler. Hello there.
Hello, Miss Danvers. I'm Gerard. I'll be here for anything you need during your stay. Everything is set up as you requested.
I smiled.
I do believe a couple of your guests have already checked in and are in their rooms. Would you like me to call them up, or would you prefer to settle in first?
He raised his eyebrows in question. Please call them. That would be great. I smiled.
You're booked in for 2 p.m. at the spa, and then you have stylists arriving at 6 for your dinner on the terrace at 8.
Super. Thank you, I replied. He gave a brisk nod before leaving through another door and closing it behind him. I walked further into the suite to find Wolfie roaming around before she headed off to the next room. There were huge vases of flowers on every surface, their fragrance fighting against the scented candles flickering throughout the rooms. "Hey, come up here."
Sample complete. Ready to continue?